Okay, we are on and we are being live streamed on YouTube right now. So welcome everyone to this glorious day. I know in some places it's morning, over here in Chicago it's afternoon, and in some places it's nighttime. So you are welcome to this show today. This is the show where we break down the NINAS message and we provide a lot of support so you understand what's actually behind the freedom jet that we're on. You know, we give you the numbers so you can see it for yourself. We give you the news so you can see it for yourself. We break down that Constitution that once you get a look at it, you very clearly recognize what NINAS is saying, that we did not make it. And this is one thing that I have gotten really good at saying lately, because it is quite true. Because in that preamble, it says, we the people. And honestly, if we the people made that Constitution, that preamble should say, we the stupid, ignorant people. Because what people would make a Constitution where they put in benefits in chapter 2 and then say that the court should not hear any cases on that, meaning it's unenforceable. That's a stupid people. Here's a good one. What people would say, let's have federal character. And once again, they say, oh, by the way, let's make it unenforceable. Let the court not hear any cases on that. That's a stupid people. And this is a really big one. You know, we were regions. And those regions, the Western, the Eastern, the Midwest, and the Northern, all had charge of their own assets. So the oil belonged to where the oil was. The gold belonged to where the gold was, right? And then we, now the stupid people, decided that, you know what? We're going to give our assets to the federal government, which if you look up federal, you know that that doesn't make any sense in the Nigerian context, but let's go past that. So we, the stupid people, now said, guess what? Let us divide our assets in such a way that we give most of everything coming from our assets to other people because they deserve it more than we do. And they need it more than we do. And by the way, we also like having 90 million people living in poverty. Okay, that's not just the stupid people, that's now, and it's past ignorant. These people are crazy. Do you understand me? They are damn crazy. Excuse my damn, but you know what? I have a lot more words that I could use about these people that will put this thing in place for themselves. World, are you listening? We are not stupid. The indigenous Nigerians have high intellectual horsepower. Check any country and check who's on top. In the middle, yeah, we have some on the bottom, but check any country. The United States, look at the numbers. Europe, the numbers. Asia, the numbers. It doesn't matter where we are. We rise to the top. We, the high intellectual power people, could not possibly have put that joke in place. That is even, killing us. And we say, oh, that's okay. The Fulani herdsmen, oh, they're misguided. What? They only killed 400,000 people? Well, you know, they're misguided. Excuse me. These are non-indigenous people. They don't come from Nigeria. Why should we put a constitution in place that allows them to invade our forests with impunity? Do you know what impunity means? Let me break it down to you. That means they get away scot-free. They kill over 400,000 people. They displace over 4 million people from their lands. They put 90 million in poverty and terrorize a whole people. And we say, oh, that's okay in our constitution. So I think it is very clear that we, the people, did not make that constitution. And that very constitution makes it clear that the NINAS constitutional force majeure is just and right. And even the United Nations made mention of that when the special rapporteur, who is the person sent by the UN to go do an independent study, and she indicated that the constitutional arrangement in Nigeria was a significant issue. And she said the situation was grave and urgent action was needed. This is in 2019. Another special rapporteur went out in 2020 and said that things had gotten worse. And we're still talking. The UN is still not acting. The world is still not condemning. That means we, the people, need to get louder. More effective noise needs to be made. We've got the brain power. We can do this, people. Come on, indigenous Nigerians. We can do this. NINAS has united everyone, and that means that we need to stand together and roar until we're heard. There are millions of us that are silenced. But there are millions of us that have the means to make the noise. We must roar. So welcome to the show today. As I said previously, we have an action-packed show. We've got Citizen AY, who has joined us, and he's going to be part of the discussion. We've got Modupe, who is still showing us freedom from Nigeria. I've tried. And she's going to be joining the conversation. We've got Chike, who's going to be joining the conversation, and we've got Thomas from the Middle Belt that's going to be joining the conversation as well. And we'll have a few more people that are going to be joining us. But we are live streaming on YouTube right now. And everyone on YouTube, you are welcome. And we enjoy seeing you every week following the information. But again, this is a time for action. I said there's a time for everything. And right now, this is a time for action. So I'm going to call on Citizen AY to give us some words of encouragement. As we talk about the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to start off by talking about who we are, because a lot of people don't know who we are. That's just going to be real quick. We'll talk about who and what NINAS really is, and what have they done, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about the federated account and the constitution that we talked about last week, just go through it right quick. And then we're going to have Zako, who's now going to give us those wonderful slides that tells us what's happening with the money. He's going to add a couple more interesting slides, and he's going to tell us once he joins us what's happening with the money. And you can now start to see.
Okay. Sorry, Jane. Sorry. Quickly, I'll just indulge me for a minute. There's also Mr. Ismail here on the, I'm not sure, we just want to acknowledge him as well.
Yeah,
so
I will call on you later because I saw that, but I wasn't really sure. I'll have you do that because after I'm going to call on you. I'm just going to call on you guys to just kind of say a few words, okay? But welcome, Ismail, and Modupe is going to say a few words about you. But I wanted to have Ayo, you're welcome. If you can give us a few words, and then Modupe is going to talk a bit, and then we shall get started into more of what we're talking about today. Welcome, Citizen AY.
Good evening, Jane. Thank you very much for the work you do. Thank you to hello everyone. Good evening, and special welcome to all the guests who are present and those who are going to join us in a little while. We're going to keep this really simple. Look, we are under attack. We are under attack, and we shouldn't be daunted by what they're doing. The simple thing that we need to remember is this: there is more of us than there is of them. Absolutely. There is more of us than there is of them. We need to hold on to that. It is a fact. This is not in dispute. This is something that they cannot dispute. It is indisputable. The fact of the matter is that there is more of us and there is less of them. What they are doing now is to try and paint a picture to make us believe psychologically that there are more of them than us. And we need to break that down. That's what we need to do. And all of the narrative, that is why they put in themselves. If you go and watch them on videos or TV, they will put one of us in there and they will have 5 or 6 of them. All of this is all psychology. I want you to understand very, very clearly. This is all psychology. Now, I want us to have that self-belief. We are in our land. Now, how many of us have gone down to the north to take the land? How many Southerners? Name one. There's none. But they are in our land. They are oppressing us in our land. It's time for us to rise up. Let's instill confidence in ourselves, in our youth. Our history is so important. They don't want us to go near our history because they know when we start exposing those histories, it will empower the youth. That's why they're putting us in all of these places to distract our mind. I want you to have a positive energy. I want you to have the self-belief in the South. The South can and will rise collectively. We must do it. We must work with NINAS. Please, referendum is something that we could, please, if you haven't signed up to the NINAS, go ahead and sign up. Sign that referendum. Join NINAS. Do everything in your power that you can to make sure you connect. Right now, the single most important thing that we must all do, we need vigilantes across the whole of the South. It is that simple. Cut the long story, cut everything else out. Right now, we need vigilantes across the South.
Effective vigilantes.
Effective, thank you. Effective vigilante. Because they've turned the South into a killing field. And we are the victims. We need to put a stop to it. We do not wait for anybody in our land to claim our birthright. That land is our birthright. So I want you to have a self-belief that we can do it together. But we need to start talking together and have the effective vigilante. Look, I'm going to stop here. I could go on.
Yeah, let me just explain to the world, because we've got other people that are listening. World vigilante in Nigeria means a local security outfit that is there to protect the people. Because the government has failed to protect the people. And in fact, the Minister for Defense a few months ago, I believe, made mention that we need to pick up forks and knives, apparently, and fight the people with the AK-47s. Exactly. The government has not denounced the Fulani herdsmen for carrying this AK-47s. The government has not issued any orders making it unlawful for Fulani herdsmen to carry any kind of arms, but they've made it unlawful for the citizens. And I refer to the indigenous citizens, because the Fulanis are non-indigenous to the land. Okay, they're non-indigenous. And going even further, we've seen, I think it is the Bauchi governor that was talking about, all the Fulanese around the world are our brothers, and so we should use Nigerian money that belong to the indigenes to settle all of their Fulani people from wherever they are in the world. And they're not just looking at settling, apparently. They're looking at colonization, because when you look at what Ruga means, it's colonization. Yeah. Right? And so the vigilantes we're talking about are local security outfits who are there to try to protect the innocent indigents, the innocent Christians, the innocent moderate Muslims, and make no mistake about it. The Muslims are under attack. If you look at the blacklisting of the U.S. Blacklisting of Nigeria in 2020, you would see that the moderate Muslims are under attack. We're talking about extremists here, Shariaists here. And Sharia means kill everybody and take their land. And if they refuse for you to take your land, make them slaves. That's what we're talking about. The 12 contiguous states in the far north have already seceded from Nigeria. They have implemented Sharia. Okay, so again, vigilantes are not really like the term, the way it's used in the Western world. It just refers to a security outfit to try to save our people from the genocide that is ongoing. So right now, I'm going to ask Modupe to unmute. Modupe is one of the hosts today.
Yes.
Always awesome, as long as we can see like all of her face.
I don't know.
There we go.
Can you see me? Okay. Yes. Thank you, Jean, and welcome everyone. Actually, I was just initially I mentioned that we should acknowledge Mr. Ojikutu, because I've seen him, I've seen him a couple of times in our meetings, so I just wanted to acknowledge his presence. So, before I'll give him, the time for him to, to say one or two things if he wants to. I just want us to go back to the clip that you played at the beginning of the meeting, where
Dr. Augusta.
Dr. Augusta explained how the 12 nations in the North decided to do their own thing, and I said their own thing.
Yeah,
and
the Sharia thing.
and yes, the Sharia thing, and really, if we are saying that that the nation is one and we're supposed to operate, under one
On Nigeria.
on Nigeria.
Mhm.
Okay, so if 12 states decided to, to use Sharia, that in itself, to me, is secession, really.
Absolutely.
It is
Absolutely.
actually secession.
It is. No, that's a fact. That's
Yeah,
a
and
fact.
that happened, and nobody said
In
anything.
2000. Mhm.
2000, but yeah. And so now that the other units within that federation are asking for self-determination to do their own thing as well, right? Now we're suddenly branded as a bunch of criminals, that we're now committing, some kind of a crime for
Offense.
asking for self-determination. So so I just want to say to our people, because one of the reasons why people will say, oh, we are not partaking in in Yoruba Nation, or asking for for self-determination because the law, because it's against the law. Some of them will even use words like treasonable felony, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Treasonable felony for asking for self-determination? When the 12 Sharia states asked for self-determination in their using their to be using Sharia, nobody cried treasonable felony. So why is it now that we are asking to have to have a say in the affairs that concerns our own units?
Which is
Why
a
is it
right,
very
by the way, right, Mother Bear? It's a right.
Yes, which is our right to do so. Then now suddenly we're seceding. We're now, we're committing crimes, and we're guilty of treasonable felony. So I just want us to be aware that what we're asking for is within our rights to ask for that.
And I think actually the courts, didn't the courts just in the past week or so indicate that agitating for self-determination is legitimate, it is lawful, it is our right.
And it is lawful by all ramifications, internationally as well. So asking for, for autonomy, or some kind of, self-determination on your own land as indigenous people, you're not doing anything wrong. It is the right thing to do. Under this circumstance, since the supposed union is not working as we envisioned that it was going to, as our fathers, back in the days, envisioned it to work. So, there's
Actually,
something.
and Modupe is actually a little bit beyond the envision, right? It's actually they agreed. It's on paper.
Well,
yeah. So we're gonna pay a bit of the Amanda Baylor thing to show that it is on paper.
It is exactly. So
Yes.
so at this point, I'm just gonna say that we continue to ask for what is our rightful rights, or our rightful place where we are on our land. We're not asking for for self-determination. We're not asking for determination in the North. We're not asking for self-determination in other people's lands, but on our own land. And so we should continue to do that. And I just also want to add that that we're just not saying it, we're also backing it up with actions. So if we're on forums, I just want to say this, that if we're on forums where we see something that we need to share with with our peers, we can actually put it on a Twitter, so that everybody else can partake, and we will have a lot of people chiming in and saying exactly the same thing, and it's out there rather than just leaving it on the forum where it does not really reach a lot of people. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And so, Ishmael, if you wanted to say a few words, that would be awesome. You are welcome to this place where we talk about all things NINAS and how we actually achieve our freedom. So Ismail, if you want to unmute and just say a few words, that would be awesome.
Hello, everybody. And thank you, Jane. Thank you, everybody, for great work. This has been a wonderful experience for me because right before my joining NINAS, I never even paid attention to so many things that's going on in Nigeria. I left Nigeria in 2005, and I only went back 2008. And since then, I really never follow any trend until, well, we hear news, here and there, until my older brother start pushing this narrative about what's going on, and then I join NINAS. So I see all the effort Tony and everybody else has been putting in. I was on Clubhouse a couple of days ago. I heeded the argument is being, and I heard your presentation also, Jane. So I just want us to understand that it's a lot of our people just were in that space where I used to be. They don't understand what's going on. Some people even think it's not a big deal as much as a big deal as what we all pushing. And we'll just have to continue to let them understand that, because like last night, I was talking to a friend of mine before last night, or quite before, a couple of days before, the experience he had. He went to Nigeria and he came back. So I was telling him, so, all this agitation about Nigeria, Yoruba, ethnic groups living in Nigeria. He kicked against it, right? So he was like, no, it's no need for that. Nigeria is safe. Everything is good. I traveled to, Abuja. And I said, look, I understand, but a whole lot of things are happening. If it has not happened to you yet, you think everything is fine. That was about 2-3 weeks ago. Yesterday, he called me and he was in tears. I say, what's wrong? His friend, who happens to be one of the top, guys in Port Harcourt, he has money and he has built a big house for his mother. Now, the mother of his friend got kidnapped by Fulani herdsmen, and they wanted $100 million. 100 million.
100 million naira.
100 million naira. So he was like, so what you've been telling me all this while is true? I said, yes, I told you. If it never happened to you, you think everything is cool. So this brings me to understand to the point where I was making, that we need to continue to push this, this narrative to our people, that the threat we face in Nigeria is real.
It is real.
And we're not going to wait until it gets to everybody's doorsteps before, we start fighting back. And as we can see, I was in New York, and with a couple of other of my friends, and we, during the 1 million march, and at most we did a whole lot of work. You can see that Nigerian government is feeling it so much that they had to even hire fake Nigerians counter our effort. So that is to tell us that they know that we're doing something that is good, that's affecting, what they are doing. And they pretend to ignore what's going on, in public face. But on the ground, behind the cameras, they know there's so much heat that they're feeling right now. So I want us to continue, just now, what we're doing.
Thank you very much. That was very well said. Very well said. And I know this is kind of digressing from what we're going to talk about today, but for people to understand the reality of what we're talking about is very important. So I'm going to call upon Thomas. Thomas knows about the reality of what's going on. Thomas, are you okay to speak for a few minutes about some of the things that's going on around you? Welcome, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I just want to speak very briefly and to also reaffirm what Ayo has said earlier on, that it's actually time for action, especially in the Middle Belt where I came from. I had the privilege to travel so that I can liaise with the grassroots people. You know, the need to actually sign the petition, the NINAS petition for referendum, that is very key. And from the Middle Belt, we are facing a lot of challenges, like all of us know, the issue of kidnapping and all of that, especially in Southern Kaduna and parts of Plateau State. So at this point, even as the people in the Middle Belt have subscribed to the idea of NINAS to bring about the total freedom and liberation from the grip and the siege that has been laid on this country, we have seen the need, and that has been emphasized for our people, the modern Muslims, Christians put together that are within the geographical location of Middle Belt, to actually embrace the idea of vigilante, which our youths have subscribed into that idea because of the reality. Now, it is difficult for our people in most of the places in the Middle Belt to actually come together. It's discouraging. People cannot go to their mosque freely to go and worship, especially the modern Muslims. Then Christians, on the other hand, are finding it difficult to converge to their worship centers because of the fear of these bandits and all of that, the terrorists. So the issue of vigilante is what we are emphasizing, but most importantly, signing of the petition, because we need people to sign the petition. And like I've always done, we're still doing, is calling on the people, mobilizing them to sign the petition, then providing local security in all the Middle Belt region. And to the glory of God, we are doing that. But I'm also encouraging that that has to be done as a matter of urgency. We need more people in the Middle Belt to subscribe to the idea of NINAS, especially those, if you observe, there's a recent kidnapping that took place in Southern Kaduna of recent. And I was just so shocked that a woman who happens to be a Christian from that among the people that were kidnapped was saying that that Nigerian government should not send the Fulanis away, that for so many years she has been with Fulani people and they are nice people. I said, what is happening? Is she not seeing the reality? Why is she in the bush suffering gunshots and all of that every day? It is because of the havoc the Fulani people are wreaking on our communities. So what I'm trying to say in essence is this: our people in the Middle Belt, some are yet to subscribe to this idea, but we'll keep on pushing, creating awareness, mobilizing people, talking about NINAS, telling them what NINAS is and what we hope to achieve in no distant time. But the idea of vigilante will continue to do that, because right to self-determination is our right. It can't be taken away from us. Initially, our people, some of them were afraid that no, once you come out to protest for self-determination, the government will come against you and all of that. But it has appeared very clearly that the right to self-determination It's actually for the people, indigenous people. They have right to, determine for their cultural, social life and all of that. So in the Middle Belt right now, a lot of things are happening. We're beginning to even come out freely, openly, to say that we are tired of the union called Nigeria. That is going on right now. Unlike before now that we chose to operate in the background because of the, the threat that has been posed by the government and government agencies on the people. But right now, the people in the Middle Belt are beginning to come out openly to say that we are tired of this government, we're tired of this union called Nigeria, because there's nothing, we are not benefiting anything, rather we are being killed every day. So the people in the Middle Belt are coming out right now.
Thank you, Thomas. It is very important for our people to understand the reality of what we're going through. But, let us get started. And Chike is here. And Chike, I don't know if you're in a place where you can speak for a couple of minutes. Because as Aya said in the beginning, it's important for our people to understand, especially a youth, to understand like who we are, So it's really important for them to understand who we were. And the fact that what we're asking for is a restoration of our nationhood that we had previously. So I'm just going to speak for a few minutes on that. And then Chike, you can let me know if you want to speak a little bit on the NINAS journey, pretty much, some of the things that NINAS has done in the past to kind of set up where we are right now, where we are, that we have this opportunity of actually getting free, okay? So, but let me talk a little bit about One Nigeria. One Nigeria is not unitary Nigeria. One Nigeria was, at the time, between 1960 and 1966, 4 nations working together. They were self-governing, and the reason I always say this is they were self-governing, meaning they controlled what was going on in their country. They had their own leaders, right? They had their own leaders, and they were autonomous. They had their own separate constitution. Separate constitution. And I dare you, go and look in the Western region constitution and see if you see anything about Sharia. Look at the Eastern region. Look in the Midwestern region. The only place that you will find Sharia mentioned would be in the Northern region. But I'm going to tell you this, and you can check this out yourself. Go Google and search for Sharia in the quote unquote Nigeria, the One Nigeria Constitution, and tell me how many times you see Sharia in there. Did the Midwestern region agree to that? Western region? Now, guys, we're talking about something that is extreme. We've got Muslims right here in NINAS, right here, right now. The moderate Muslims, they are under attack. They were under attack before it crossed over. So we need to understand that this isn't a religious them and us. Because some people want to pit the Muslims against the Christians. This is not what is happening here. This is an indigenous war. This is about the ancestral lands that non-indigenous people want to take over, and they've partnered up with the extremists that are terrorizing not just Nigeria, but the whole West Africa and beyond that. Have you guys heard them start talking in England? Did you guys see those videos where they were talking about how Sharia had to be implemented in London? Have you guys seen that? So we're talking about a global phenomenon, but that is being orchestrated more deeply in Nigeria. So I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with the moderate Muslims in Nigeria that are indigenous to Nigeria. And we're saying, no, you cannot take our land. You cannot take our religion. You cannot stop the future of our children. You cannot take our heritage. And that's what we all need to be. Yes, we had Fulani who'd been in our midst and they were peaceful, but that's not who we're talking about. You guys have seen them coming, being the thousands and thousands and thousands of them that are being brought in here. Last week we saw the video about the Ruga that where they chased away. He said it was what, it was up to down 78,000 acres or whatever it is that he said, 7,000 hectares or whatever, and nobody knows what the people that own the land don't have anything anymore. We're talking 4 million people displaced, right? So we were separate nations. We were not one indivisible, indissoluble. Okay, we're not stupid. Okay, they're unitary Nigeria. We're not stupid. So that we will put such a constitution in place that takes away our right to life. It takes away our right to life. The most common basic thing that a government should protect. That is just not right. So this is a restoration, right, of the nations and their ability to control their assets, take care of their people, progress with what they have, actually enjoy what they have, and not have over 90 million Nigerians living in poverty. Where's all the money going? So, young people, young indigenous Nigerians, wherever you are around the world, be clear on this. You came from a nation that is not unitary Nigeria. You came from a nation in the South and the Middle Belt that is not unitary Nigeria. And don't let anyone talk to you about the fact that this is cessation, this is breaking up. No, it is not. It is restoration. What we have is an aberration, a forced upon us aberration that needs to be corrected. What's wrong is unitary Nigeria. What's right is national, where we have the nations in Nigeria. The multinational Nigeria is the correct Nigeria. That is what Nigeria. This is apartheid. This is genocide. And this is intense poverty for the masses. So Chike, I see that you have raised your hand. So we're going to transition. Before we start talking about the numbers, we're going to transition to a little bit of a discussion, about 5-minute discussion about NINAS, where it's been, and where we are going. So Chike, if you want to unmute, please.
Okay, the reason why I want to talk is for a lot of us to understand NINAS just didn't start. And what led to NINAS started, as Augusta said, 21 years ago. And most people didn't know what was going on, because if they started and IPOB tried to do something and they went underground, that is why a lot of people didn't know what they were doing, because they didn't want to clash with the IPOB, and then the same Fulani government will be the one that come to break it up. So they went underground and continued their work. It's only I was working independent until I met Tony in 2012. Something happened, somebody started something in Washington, and it wasn't somebody I could work with. So I decided to step away. 5 years ago, I ran into Tony again, and he told me what happened. And the person that started in Washington was doing a solo, didn't want anybody. Even what he started, I didn't want Tony and the rest of them to get into the website. They had problem with funding. That is how I got involved, providing them funding for what they are doing. I thought there's another way to do it, and I will be able to get money and not disturb that person. So this has been, and that is still going on. What we are doing here is not exactly, a lot of work is still going on in Nigeria
Absolutely.
that we need to fund, so to say. There are only a few of us now funding what they are doing. Somebody talked about vigilante. A governor in Middle Belt, because of what Nina did, now understand that guns are no longer the prerogative of the federal government. So he said that he's going to arm his vigilante. When other governors do that, that means that they understand, now they understand what is going on. So if you have a governor, they are supposed to do exactly the same thing. Federal government does not have any exclude because the constitution is now under dispute. All the governors should arm their vigilante, do the same thing and pass law to arm their vigilante. The one on Port Harcourt did the value added tax, and it's already implemented in Lagos. When enough states do that, the federal government will collapse when they are not collecting that money. And when you arm your vigilante, those that are coming with AK-47, having a home advantage, lay ambush for them, and because when they are coming, they know they are coming, but they are not. People are not armed.
Okay, if we can just kind of move on to the things that NINAS has done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What NINAS have before NINAS, there was New Nigeria
Movement for Non-Nigeria.
New Nigeria,
Yeah.
which was a disguise, so that they wouldn't know what was. They believe they are still working for Nigeria. That is how the LNC was able to organize the Middle Belt, organize the West. They first organized the Southeast and South-South, and they moved to organize the others to be on the same page. So that is why it's very important when we are doing things, we are using NINAS, because after they did everything, they did away with New Nigeria, called it NINAS. Let NINAS be our face. That is how we are going to be effective if we are going outside.
Absolutely.
If we are doing LNC or Middle Belt or Dudua, we are dissipating our energy. When we send a message to the world, it should be one message.
Okay, if you can wrap up now, Chike, that would be great.
Not discipline that people, just NINAS. That is what we need to be doing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So Chike is kind of giving you like a personal perspective as to some of the things that it's done and the things that NINAS has done. But way back in 1999, when this constitution came out, and we had all the brilliant minds taking a look at this, Inaharo, Olashoyinka, Juku and the rest of them, Tony and Nadi, and they were just like, oh my God, we have lost everything. That's when the battle actually started, folks. They had ProNACO, where they brought everyone together to talk about this, right? And then they talked about the fact that this really could not continue. They had the lawsuit in 2007 and 2009. Then there were the solemn assemblies where the ethnic blocs were rejecting this unitary Nigeria and demanding for their nationhood back. The engagement with the US, we've talked about that. The engagement with the UN, we've talked about that. Engagement with the ICC, that all kinds of groups have engaged into, to be able to get them to issue the statement that they did last year, right? And then on December 16th, they issued that constitutional force majeure. And what that is rejecting, it is rejecting that constitution. It is rejecting unitary Nigeria and demanding for the nationhood to be restored. So that's what NINAS is doing. Now, remember, we all must support NINAS. We all are NINAS. At the same time, we all also belong to our separate blocks. So while we're working with NINAS to see that the message is going out everywhere. We must be working within our own blocks to see that our people are getting ready. Our people need to hear the message, and when it's coming from us, that we're from there, they will listen to it much better, right? So we have dual responsibility, making sure that the freedom vehicle is flying high and it is well known and everyone understands that we're under it. So they can't say that we're doing something else. Once you're under the NINAS self-determination umbrella, nobody should be disturbing you. When you're in your blocks, talking to your people. Okay, so let's just get that clear. So I'm going to, I've been looking out to see where Dapo, if he has joined us. Dapo, have you joined us?
Yes, I'm here. I just updated my name.
Okay, I'm like, where is he? Okay, you're welcome. So I am going to now ask Citizen AY to come back in so that we can have a conversation. Citizen AY, I'm making you a co-host over here, so that we can have this conversation with Dapo that is going to allow us to look at the numbers, okay? Last week, we looked at the federating accounts and we looked at the criteria that they use, which is land size, local government area, and population. Nothing that actually is an advantage to the South, the New South, and definitely huge advantage to the foreign North. So, Citizen AY, where are you?
Here I am. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, so welcome, and if you can take us on through, that would be great. And that was here.
Sorry, I'll get it up. You want the PowerPoint? Is Dapo running from his end, or am I doing it?
Yeah, I think Dapo, you have do you have the PowerPoint? I have made you co-host so that you'll be able to share that and talk at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's best.
Yeah, but I just wanted you to kind of introduce the topic,
yes.
Citizen AY, about what we talked about last week and what the numbers and what he's going to be presenting.
Last week, what we left it at was the clever trick done by the North, whereby they put the middle belt and the North together, giving them more land mass, and then using it as a way to now take control of the resources, getting the majority of whatever funds we were getting from whatever oil and other areas. And this is all clever use of numbers and moving things around, and that's why this thing about the states, the creation of the states was perhaps one of the biggest damages done to us. Absolutely. Because it allowed them to now give each of them more local government areas, to give the North more local government areas, and even call areas that are not North. And I mean, this is when you look at the whole, the numbers will speak for itself. When Dapo begins to talk, you will see the correlation between the numbers and the states, and how the division of those states to favor them has actually and continues to impact us in the South negatively. No, though the resources comes from the South. I think that covers it, Vaughn. That pretty much covers it.
One of the things that we actually have not really touched on, and we're going to touch upon this, when you look at the poverty numbers, right? Remember, most of the numbers, most of the money is going to the far North. But where is the most poverty? In South. The far North. What sense does that make? That now tells you that this money is not going to indigenous Nigerians, but is getting into the hands of the non-indigenous Nigerians. Because if it was staying in the hands of the indigenous Nigerians, why isn't it being used to feed them, to clothe them, to give them, the means to be able to do so, right?
I do have to ask one question in between that. The numbers that they keep giving us in terms of the number of people in the North, I believe that there's very suspect. I have a real problem with that.
Well, we also have a lot of, remember, they've brought in millions of people that are Fulanese specifically, that are not indigenous Nigerians, that were not in Nigeria previously, but have been streaming into Nigeria.
Yeah.
So that's part of the thing. But the numbers, as we know, don't reflect reality.
Jane, can Can I just
Yeah,
chime in?
go ahead, and then we'll invite Dapo.
Yeah, do you want me to chime in real quick?
Absolutely, that's what I
Jen?
said. Go ahead.
Yeah, yes. Actually, I asked a question now. He said that you know, that the numbers that they are basically doctored numbers. Well, they need to doctor them, because if they don't doctor them, then they cannot justify why those resources need to be allocated to them. That's number one. Then number two, to your you know, to kind of piggyback on what you said, Jane, about, you know, about where the money that's, you know, that they're getting all the money, but it's not reaching the lower, you know, the masses. It's just
the
in the few,
indigenous masses.
it's because their system, you know, their cultural system is more of you know, oligarchy or feudalism, where, you know, where the whole, just a few people will be benefiting from whatever is that belongs to the, I mean, that belongs
definitely
to the rest
not
of the
democracy.
So the little people, so the people, you know, below are just getting the crumbs of it, which is what they are doing to us now in the South, where, you know, the majority of the money, you know, that should belong to everyone. Now they are hoarding them, and then you have just the little crumbs are going to even our leaders, our so-called leaders, who should know better, right? They're just getting crumbs. All the Tinubu's of the world, they're just getting crumbs.
Crumbs.
Wow. Exactly. So, you know, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ayo, if you want to welcome Dapo, I think he started sharing his screen already.
Yes, welcome on board, my brother Dapo. Please enlighten us. We're waiting with bated breath with the information you're about to present to us.
Good, Dapo.
They look very good.
You've done
so
it.
please, welcome. The floor is yours. Proceed. Thank you very much. Welcome on board.
Thank you very much, and hello, House. It's interesting because last time we did a very big number of slides. We covered a number of things, including VAT, GDP, IGR, and all the other things that make up the revenue from Nigeria. But interestingly, I thought today, just for just to show you how bad things are, let's just focus on one part, and this is the part where most of the injustice is easily visible, right? And we're going to talk about internally generated revenue, which is actually the money generated by the state in terms of taxes. Now, tax revenue is a very big driver. It tells you how the state revenue, how the state is doing. So typically, if your state is able to generate X amount of revenue, it will also be able to contribute X amount of federal allocation. And if it is also generating Y amount of revenue, it also contributes Y amount in terms of federal allocation. Let's not forget that the majority of the federal allocation or the drivers for federal resources are actually southern resources. So you think the top three revenue drivers, the import duties, they are all the ports are in the south. Oil revenue, all the oil mines and oil deposits are all in the south. And then the last one is the value-added taxes. And you can see how contentious that has been in the last few months, with state governors literally taking the fight to the judiciary to have a greater control of their VAT. And the irony about VAT is that, unlike other type of taxes which were agreed to be taken on behalf of by the federal government and shared throughout all the states using a revenue sharing formula that we're going to talk about, the initial understanding for VAT was that the states didn't have the competence and capacity to collect their own federal taxes or their own value-added taxes. But what they did was they told the federal government that a lot of people are afraid of the federal government, so you can go ahead, collect the VAT on our behalf, and when you are done, just send it back to us. And the federal government said, oh, that's an additional admin cost, and they negotiated and they told the government you could take like maybe 1% to 4%, something like that. So there shouldn't be a case where River State will generate 50-something billion in taxes and would only get back maybe 19 billion. It's never supposed to be like that, because it's literally what you generate you're supposed to get back. But as you know, the Sharia territories, they've been very clever with how they manipulated the system, and they continue to use different type of goal shifting, and they are very intentional with the way they manipulate RMAFAC, which is the Revenue and Fiscal Allocation Committee, which is a way for them to continue to perpetuate the slavery that they've continued to enjoy. But if you don't take my word for it, let us just look at the numbers very quickly. So the Sharia territory, out of 1.3 trillion that was generated in taxes in 2020, 9%, 115 billion approximately came from the Sharia territory, whilst 91%, as you would expect, came from the alliance territory. This typically tells you how the alliance territory does, even without the help of the Sharia territory. And this is also because, unlike federal allocation, IGR is generated by the states and is kept by the states. There was an interesting conversation that broke out on social media about a particular revenue arm of Lagos State that the Union of Road Transport Workers Lagos State chapter that was generating approximately 1.2 trillion or something in federal revenue, and to that degree, it was generating more revenue than all the Sharia states put together just from NURTW. So let's go 1.2 billion. So let's go back to the numbers. So 115 billion was generated in IGR, while in the alliance territory, 1 trillion, 191 billion was generated in the alliance territory, so approximately 91%. But when it came to federal allocation, which is the use of the resources that was gotten by the federal government to the states, you can see that 16% was given to the Sharia territory and 84% was given to the alliance territory. So just by looking at that, you can see that the Sharia territory gained an additional 5% in terms of federal allocation, less than what they actually deserve. But because they've been able to manipulate things like population, landmass, which accounts for population, landmass, and equality accounts for 80% of the revenue sharing formula, they actually get a higher percentage of money that they did not work for. So these evidences are very, the examples are all over the place. If you look at the VAT, it's also very similar. And another question we always worry about, people say that how would we survive in terms of by the time the country, economically, how is it going to be stable by the time you have two separate regions? So that would typically be a problem if there was no evidence to prove that a huge part of the southern territory or the alliance territory doesn't already carry the bulk of the GDP. But if you look clearly again at the GDP numbers, you can see that 14% of the GDP of the country comes from the north, or the Sharia territory, while the southern territory, the Sharia territory, while the alliance territory actually owes 86% of the GDP. So if I could help you put it in maybe something you could relate to, if you look at the dollar and said the dollar was trading at 500, a lot of governors or central bank governors, they will try to tell you that, it would be how would the country cope by the time you lose that portion of the country in terms of currency. And that is to simply tell you that the worst that the currency can be devaluated is by 14%, right? Because it's going to lose only 14% of its GDP. So the new currency, the new economy would only shrink by 14%. And compare that with the Sharia territory, they are going to shrink the economy by 86% because they will no longer have the access to the alliance territory that makes up their where they pension or where they perpetuate their existence on. So then that becomes very evident about the need for both regions to understand what is going to happen. So I think if we have that very simple understanding, it can help you really just channel your thinking, especially into
your voice is gone. Your voice is gone. Can you get closer to the mic, please? Very important point. Can you go back and get closer to the mic, please? Thank you.
Okay. Is it better now?
No, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you. It's a bit, you're far away. Can you do
What
something?
about now?
Now, better, much better. Thank you. Much better.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So what I was trying to explain again is that the worst case scenario that the economy can suffer the shocks, immediate macroeconomic shocks in terms of separation from the Sharia territory, the immediate implications that we can see maybe between a quarter and maybe 5 quarters. That's the first month to 15 months when we're stabilizing after the balkanization. Immediate economic implication is that the worst that the currency can trade off will be around 570 because it's losing 14% of its value. That in itself might look like a big challenge, but you ask yourself, how quickly do we get to 570 anyway? In any case, given the huge loans that we continue to aggregate on behalf of all the regions, both productive and unproductive, and the continuous looting and misappropriation of funds, the sheer fact that, despite the the number of years that we've continued to subsidize the Sharia territory, we still continue to have cases where poverty, education, all of these indicators are very different realities for the two territories. So if you look at poverty, for instance, just like you had mentioned earlier, in the southwest of the country, the poverty is bad, but it's just 20% of the population. And if you look at the northwest, the poverty there is about 80%. So it gives you an understanding that these are two different stages of development. There was a particular state that, in a particular year, they only were able to graduate 24 students. That was in Zamfara State. They were only able to graduate 24 students who had 5 credits, including English and Maths. And if you look at the Kano State, for instance, so they had the economic indicators there aren't so very positive, with approximately 3 million children roaming the streets in Amajiri. Wow. And you have a situation whereby 90% of the girls aged between 6 to 18 cannot read and write. So those are real bad economic indicators. And it's literally the economic argument for the balkanization of the country and separation. It makes a lot of sense because it's the only way where the two territories can survive. There's no economic policy that you're going to write for a South that is not going to franchise the North. A clear example is in what we talk about every day, which is the quota system for getting into universities, where a student who score 4 and gets into a university, while a student from the Alliance territory will score 220 and wants to be able to get into the university because it's considered to come from a region that is, economically ahead, and the other region is not. So these are the kind of problems that continue to build up when you try and run two of them together. What we've always known, and what the economists have known, what a lot of people have always known when you look at the data, when you look at how the economics are governed, is that the North is like it's in the first stage of development, and the South is in like the third stage of development. We have the 4 industrial revolutions. The North is in the first industrial revolution, which is an agrarian revolution. The second industrial revolution is the revolution of the steam engines. Third revolution is the revolution of the computer age, and the fourth is the nano chip. And if you look at it clearly, because of our ability to embrace Western education and our the ability of us to open our economies, so to speak, to be able to get a lot of things from the external world, we've been able to grow very quickly, and that's why you have a lot of VAT generated from industries. Because again, those alliance territories are able to foster industries, and this is what makes it a growing economy, or attempting to grow economy. These are the indicators that people see and think Nigeria can grow. But when you look at Sharia territory, they're very, very struggle to integrate education. There's a lot of problems in there. Even the inclusive institutions that will allow their governors to be held accountable, just loot in mass. So these are the kind of clashes of civilizations between the North and the South. The numbers show it. The revenue shows it, VAT shows it, and the only way to sustain the alliance territory now is, as a matter of urgency, to fragment it along the 2 separate lines, and have a situation where you have in Korea, the North Korea and the South Korea. The North Korea is a communist state, like they run on communist principles, while the South Korea is a capitalist state and it runs on capitalist principles. And if you look at their GDPs and their economies, it's also very clearly 2 different types of countries. And that is what you see when you look at Nigeria. You can imagine a situation by Nigeria has a GDP of 400 billion and everybody thinks that's a big deal, but actually 345 billion comes from the alliance territory and 14 billion comes from the Sharia territory, and the Sharia territory actually controls the whole country. So you will never create policies that will immediately, create some sort of economic boom in the alliance territory, because what it
we're effectively slaves to the Sharia territory.
Exactly, effectively, and there's no way that the Sharia territory, whilst in control of power, would do anything to allow you to prosper into the 3rd and 4th industrial revolution and trying to catch up with the rest of the world, whilst they are still trying to live the agrarian revolution. Which is why when you hear their leaders speak, the things that entice them are things like cattle settlement, cattle colony, that kind of conversations you would have had in the 1800s and in the 1700s. A lot of people who are in the agrarian revolution, those are in the industrial revolution, are looking for industrial policies that will help them transit things like cleaner energy. So cleaning up the oil fields will be a priority for people who are trying to transit into maybe the 3rd industrial revolution, and find alternative sources of energy, try and foster proper power supply for the country and things like that. But in the agrarian age, the things that take priority for you are probably things you've heard from the presidency, things like cattle colony, grazing routes, and all that other nonsense. And that would only take us closer to Pakistan and further away from maybe advanced countries like US, Singapore, South Korea, and all that, because they are thinking differently and the whole world is thinking differently. So I think I've been able to show some numbers now. I'll mute for now, and then we have so many other data, but I think we should be taking it in bits like this so that we digest it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for this enlightening data. Modupe, would you like to say a few things about what you're saying, please?
Yeah, very, 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 very impressive. I mean, the data and the analysis, I mean, superb. I just wanted to, I mean, I want to add to that, you know, for those of us, and that's for our, or not us, but I'm saying our people, that, you know, that still embraces one Nigeria. And I just don't know how you will hear this. You will listen to the analysis and still want to be in one Nigeria, because we are not the same. We're not the same. Just like the speaker, the presenters said, that they are like laggards. They are pulling us back. They want to go into the agrarian society like that happened even before my father was born, right? And so they are now saying, you know, like this is how we should live. When people are looking into, you know, I mean, people are being born into technology, you know, now. But I mean, it's so appalling. I mean, just the mere thought of it. But I think this really should not only be here. It should be spread around.
Spread about.
People need to know about this, especially on our university campuses. You know, on our youth need to know about this. People need to know about this, because there's no way you will see these numbers, you will hear these numbers, that you will still say, oh, you know, we should remain in one Nigeria. You're stronger together. Some better, you know, what that they say that makes absolutely no sense.
No. You're absolutely right. Let me just, you're honestly well said, Modupe, and thank you, Gakpo, for this great work. It's enlightening. I hope many people will take on this. This is the reality, as against the falsehood that we've been portrayed and that's been bombarded with for years upon years. This is the reality that we must hold on to and share. The information here is damning. Now, one of the things that I was on a program, I was on a show, another show a few days ago, and they were asking me, what if we end up sort of going our separate ways? How are we sure that we as Yorubas or as Igbos and we will survive? I hope those who ask the questions, I hope they can see the answer right here. I don't have to say anything. The numbers speak for itself. I'm sure you'd agree, wouldn't you? So unmute, please. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The numbers are damning, like you said. I mean, you don't even need to say anything. It's right there. And but being able to get our people to see this and hear the same thing that we're hearing, so that they are not looking at us as if we have two heads. When we're talking about, we need to leave. We need to leave. We need to leave.
Yes.
So
I think I want to kind of put some more light on these numbers, because these numbers just well, it's not too bad. Well, let's talk about that, right? When you look at the fact that the cost of governing in Nigeria actually gobbles up all of this money, the cost of governance.
Wow.
And when you think about who is governing, right?
Yeah.
Who's actually has charge of this money, right? Because most of this money is going to governance. And I believe Saludo said a few years ago when he was the CDN or whatever, and he said the cost of governing was at 72%. Okay, so take away 72% of this number. And now it's over 80%.
Goodness.
So, you look at it and you think, well, it's not too bad. But then when you think, okay, who is governing, right? When you think about federal character, why is not enforceable? Who is at NNPC? Who is at all the major
customs, petrol?
Where this revenue is actually, who's earning that money? Who's taking that money home? It's not the South.
Exactly.
So we have to kind of overlay, that discussion with this here, so that we can get a better feel of what's actually, where the money is actually going, right? And don't even get me started about the building building the railroad or the road or whatever into Niger or to Morocco or wherever it is that they want to take it to with Nigeria. But don't even get me started on that.
No.
Right?
1 second. I saw that was brought a new slide. I wonder if we could say something about that. D, could you enlighten us a little bit about the slide? It can be, I'm sure, be helpful. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. So one question that we always ask ourselves is,
the mic, please make sure that mic is, so we need to hear you clear. Very important, please. Thank you.
Is it better now?
Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead.
One of the biggest questions we always ask is, now we are running this government and things look like.
Get back to the mic. Okay. Just make sure you stay where you are when the mic is loudest. It's going off again now. Thank you.
All right. So one of the questions people always ask is, was Nigeria always this bad? So what were the dreams of our founding fathers? What kind of economy did they envision for us? You talk about cost of governance now. What was their own governance in their time when we had regional system of government, which was the closest we've had to balkanized Nigeria? And you can begin to understand like what was obtainable then. So what we did here was we analyzed two specific data. We analyzed Nigeria's exports in 1950s and compared it to the global economy to see what percentage of the world were we controlling in terms of exports. And then we also took a look at how the government was structured. So what was the structure of the budget in the 1950s? And what percentage of the funds was spent on capital expenditure and what percentage of the funds was spent on recurrent expenditure, which is salaries and wages. So let's talk about the first part. So on the left-hand side, we'll talk about what products were we exporting and what kind of effect did they have on the world economy. We're going to talk about palm kernel and palm oil. Approximately, we'll control about 49% of the world's export or world production of palm kernel and 42% of the world production of palm oil. So we were literally very pivotal.
The giants. We were giants.
Impressive.
Giants.
That's impressive, Adapo, given that palm oil and palm kernel has even increased in value today to the world because of its health benefits, right?
Absolutely. Wow. And not just that, we pioneered a lot of propositions when we had a kind of economy. What actually gave us an opportunity to be able to position ourselves as world leaders for palm oil and palm kernel and cocoa beans was that what you had then were not ministers of the economy, ambassadors that went to take pictures and all of that. They actually were sent on trade missions and trade expeditions to go and find, a sales outlet for our produce. So Awolowo would send you to Sweden, to Norway, to Germany to go look for opportunities on behalf of the cocoa board to sell cocoa beans and, get good pricing, not just from Europe or not just from the UK, but to European countries. Just suppose that with what you have today, a lot of the ministers or ambassadors that represent Nigeria, they feel like their job is just to collect salaries and print passports and all of that. They actually don't create revenue opportunities for the country. They don't create incentive. Now put that side by side with the Chinese. Every time they come into Nigeria or they come into developing countries in Africa as a whole, the Chinese ambassadors to those countries are going to your president to collect low-performing loans to build useless railway lines to different countries. So they're doing wealth for their countries. On the other hand, your ambassadors and business, they are doing absolutely nothing. So let's go back to the data. Rubber and long-term, we contribute 24% of world production. And if you know what rubber was in the 1950s, it was pivotal to bicycles, it was pivotal to car production, it was pivotal to so many other things. So we were literally in there in the conversation. But if you look at what is happening today, we are nowhere in the conversation. Let's look at the 1959 budget. And this is a budget of 98.9 million pounds in 1959. Compare that with last year's budget of 10.3 trillion. Now, the question to ask is, how was the economy growing? So GDP growth rate. And GDP growth rate in 1959 was 8.4%. Last year, it was minus 0.1%. So 0.1%. So you can see that in the last 60 years, we've just spent the entire best part of the country, just driving it backwards. So everything the founding fathers set up in terms of the structure of the country, the GDP growth, the things that they consider priorities for exports and revenue for the country, we've just continued to fail and fail. And we have gotten to a stage where we've gone from 8.4% to 0.1%. But that's not where it gets even shocking. Now, there are two indicators, capital expenditure and recurrent expenditure. So capital expenditure talks about the money that is set aside in the budget for rail lines, for bridges, for infrastructure, power, things that will drive the economy. And then recurrent expenditure basically talks about salaries, right? Now, capital expenditure in 1959 was 58% of the budget, and recurrent expenditure in 1959 was 24% of the budget. Take that side by side to last year. Capital expenditure was only 24% of the budget, while recurrent expenditure, surprise, 47% of the budget. So what we have again is another indication where in 60 years, the government has turned it upside down. When the founding fathers spent more building infrastructure and spent less paying themselves, this current system spends more paying itself, 47%, and only 24% to set aside for even road maintenance, potholes, building schools for a bigger population. So what this also explains to me very clearly is that we have continued to recess. And thank God for economics. It's a very beautiful understanding. It can help you put two economies side by side, and more importantly, it can even put two time periods side by side by virtue of your ability to calculate inflation rate. So what struck me was that 57 million and 2.4 trillion, they look like a lot of money, but I wanted to understand what was 57 million pounds in 1959 compared to Nigeria's currency, considering that every day the naira loses value. I mean, in the 1950s, I think one naira was almost $2.40.
Yes.
Today it's completely the other way around. It's about 570, 540, depending on who you are believing. So now, what I now did was I calculated. We took a look at the data for inflation, and in 1959, between 1959 and 2021, the currency has lost 1,844% in inflation. So approximately the budget, 57 million in 1959, is about 105 billion British pounds in 2021, and that means that it was 52 trillion naira that was budgeted in 1959 for capital expenditure. Put that side by side with 2.4 trillion that was budgeted for capital expenditure 60 years later. So what we have done is that we have successfully destroyed the legacies of our founding fathers over a period of 60 years. And that is very important now, because all we can see, all we can hear, the palpitation, the economic indicators, the way poverty, unemployment, every single thing that should be going in the other direction keeps getting worse. So it's going to get to a situation whereby, the next data, the next time series, 4 or 5 years down the line, these numbers could be even, maybe 60, 70% worse. So it is very important that this constitution is stopped and we just balkanize the country. It is the only way for both nations to survive. Honestly, without any, they might think that they are doing themselves a lot of disservice by holding on to the rest of us, but like I keep telling people from the alliance territory, the worst that will happen to the currency is if we take a time period of 570, the dollar will get to 570 and we will survive. But if we continue the alliance territory, that's the worst that can happen. The Sharia territory, on the other hand, because they are losing 84% of their currency, now that currency is going to go to somewhere around 890 something or 860 something. So this is the reason why we must separate so that both nations can begin to rewrite its own economy. I believe strongly that once the Sharia territory is free from the alliance territory, they can decide to not even sell beer, but they will not be able to break beer bottles. There are so many things that they will not now be able to do because they would now need to grow.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing. Carry on.
So it's all over the place, and this situation also of continuing to bring cousins from Mauritania, from Seychelles, from Mali, from Guinea, from Senegal. Once there is no alliance territory to feast on in terms of resources, in terms of land to grab and all of that, you know, people will start to have honest conversations with themselves to say, well, there was a time we had the oil of the deltas and the taxes of Lagos, for instance. We could have afforded to, you know, take you in your millions, but now there's no election to rig, so we don't need you anymore. So then that's the only way that region can grow. You know, there's no need to make Western education look bad. If that's the only option for you to civilize your industries, to produce labor force to come and grow your economy, you would build schools. You would not need to build schools. You would put people in schools by matter of force. Population control is something that must be done across the whole country. But population control is not a problem for the alliance territory, but it's a big problem for the Sharia territory. So which president or which governor can, you know, using which constitution can implement population control in Nigeria when it is the singular most important factor in elections? So, you know, we have so many problems, economic problems, real problems that if we don't solve, we're going to not only overtake, we've already, I think India's, if you look at India's poor people, they make up 4% of their population. If you look at Nigeria's poor people, we makes up 40% of our population. You know, if we don't take, you know, control of the situation now, I fear that we'll get to a situation whereby the country will be in complete chaos because we would have more poor people. We're currently at 86 million. We're projected to get to 120 million, and our population is projected to triple, which means that we could have as much as 220 million poor people by the year 2100. So it is very imperative, and that will be on a population of 2,286,000,000 or 786 million. Will be having close to 500 million poor people in the space of Nigeria. The problems continue to grow, population continues to skyrocket, but this is fueled by a religion that is part and parcel of the constitution of the North. So I think that we should be very intentional about solving the problems. The data is clear. I've talked about infrastructure stagnation. The data is also very clear. So the final question is, somebody mentioned it and I thought to talk on it, is that question, that year-old question people keep saying, and it annoys me. They say that, oh, Nigeria is a big country, 200 million. Why do you want to balkanize the country? We will lose our GDP. So the question I always tell people is it population that makes a country or productive population? And then they freeze, they're like, population. So let me explain it to you. Right? Whoa. And we're going to use data. We're going to compare some countries, and then we're going to compare their population and their GDP, and then you can put it side by side with Nigeria. Let's start from South Africa. South Africa has a GDP of 283 billion, but they have a population of 58 million. To put that in context, Nigeria has 4 times that population, and we don't have 4 times the GDP. We barely have 2 times their GDP. Now, if you look at Ireland, Ireland has a population of 5 million, but they have a GDP of $390 billion. Nigeria has a population of 200 million, so 195 million more people than Ireland, and we have a GDP of 432 billion.
Yeah.
So if you put at Switzerland, for instance, Switzerland has a GDP of 703 billion, so 300 billion more than Nigeria, and they have a population of 9 million, so 190 million less people, 191 million less people than Nigeria, and they're able to generate a GDP 300 more than Nigeria. So this tells you very clearly that GDP is only relevant when your population is productive. You can see very clearly where the productive population of the country is and where the unproductive population of the country is. But that country can never grow if you do not balkanize. If you look at Sweden, Sweden has a population of 10 million people. Nigeria has a population of 200 million people. Sweden has a GDP of 529 billion. And Nigeria has a GDP of 432 billion. So even in Africa, if you look at so many examples, you'll be shocked that GDP per capita, Nigeria is not doing so well. I mean, we have countries like Botswana, you know, Tanzania doing better GDP per capita than we are. So it's very challenging when you're on the Seychelles, where people go for vacations and all of that. You'll be amazed that GDP per capita, despite the fact that they have 1 million people in population, is much better than that of Nigeria. So
my brother, look at New York, a state is just one state. Look at that.
Yes, New York has
New York.
has a GDP of 884 billion, twice the GDP of
Yeah, well,
Nigeria.
we
And
really can't look at the U.S. California or Texas. Those are countries.
But we have to. But we have to.
Those are
In terms of,
countries. No,
China,
I
but
understand. I understand. I'm just saying.
it's
So we
crazy.
can't- yeah,
That-
they're
that-
countries.
that's the point. A lot of people think that, having an alliance territory that is not connected to maybe the corner of Sharia territory, that country is going to suffer. And you have to constantly paint the picture in their head that even with 40 million, even with 70 million, with 80 million, the country can still be productive. That it's not the population that should be a
Much more
determinant.
productive.
Exactly, because they are smaller countries with as small as 5 million people. They have the same brains as us, the same eyes, the same head. In fact, you go to these countries, you find a lot of Nigerians thriving there, mostly from
Yes.
the alliance territory. But the
Wow.
problem is not that they cannot be prosperous. The problem is that we are just in the wrong constitution that needs to be stopped. It doesn't foster growth, it only fosters population birthing, because the things that you get revenue for are not things that it doesn't reward you for being productive. It rewards you for having the most land.
Oh, your voice again, please. Close to the mic, please. You're going away. Your voice is going away. Please get to the mic.
Yes. It rewards you for having population and land mass, and it doesn't reward you for productivity.
You still need to repeat what you're saying, Dapo, because your voice went away.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so like I said, the Constitution does not reward you for productivity. It doesn't reward you for industrialization.
Wow.
The only thing it rewards you for is population and land mass, and that's in abundance in the Sharia territory, and
local government area, because they've got that too. They've got that a lot.
And we know that was rigged anyway under the Babangida, Abacha, and Abdul Salam era. Those three areas, they came and changed everything. And there is no such thing as South. That's all a lie. The indigenous people really does matter. The point that Jane really likes to make. And I want to emphasize that. And that impacts why the funds that have taken away from us, they've used that balkanization of all of those indigenous people into areas to favor them, to oppress us in the South. It's important we understand those numbers and how by moving those things around, they've said, oh, look, there's more of us, and now we're trying to break that down. Dapo, I honestly.
I'd like to say something on this. Sorry, this is Dion.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Something on this. I like this slide on the GDP, but I'm always concerned about when we compare GDPs like this, because all these countries that we have compared, they have definite ways of measuring their economy. We don't have it in this country called Nigeria. We don't have it. We don't know how many people are in the what we call the informal sector. We don't even have the figures. So those figures, if you add them up to here, it will be better. It does not change the general figure, but it will be better. So let's not be carried away too much. Also, the other thing that we have to remember is that the problem really is the value of the naira. It's a stupid currency that we are comparing with dollar. So we can't compare 500. Which law says that the naira must be 560, 570?
Okay, thank you very much, Dion. Let's
Dion,
I think that
exactly.
Yeah.
I would just like to point out the fact that, you see, when you factor in the fact that in the North, in some cases, we've had that they exchange the dollar for 20 naira, whilst we are paying 500 naira to 700 naira in the South. That kind of explains that disparity that you're looking at there. So I'll just leave that there.
And let's be clear, when you look at the folks that are exchanging these funds, where are they from? Have you looked at them? Have you seen any middle belt to South, the new South? Let me just call it the new South. Have you seen them exchanging funds outside? No, they're Malams, right? They're Boki. That's why you have they're not. Even there, we're often marginalized. Okay, we bring that up. Even there, we're marginalized. So, I mean, it doesn't matter where you look, and again, what I'm saying is that, like these numbers, look great, right? It looks like we're taking stuff in the alliance territory. But again, when you look at who is sitting atop of all those revenue generating areas and who's actually taking the money, then you realize it's really not that much going anywhere, right? It's staying in that what, less than 1% of the population that's eating 80% of what's coming in, and then the rest of it is going into the infrastructure.
Let me just interject. There's somebody on the screen just said that I don't like to hear the questions and comments made by Dion Odikwe, and that's not the case. We are look, we want to have discussion. The very idea for NINAS to have kind of discussion like this on a weekly basis is to encourage people to debate and actually share opinions. That way you can move forward. So you, whoever wrote that, you're very, very much wrong. Jane is happy to listen to things. So is Modukwe, so is Dakpo. We are all here to enlighten ourselves. And to come into this thing with that idea that we're thinking, oh, we don't want to hear different opinions. We need to hear different opinions. That's how you win arguments. So I just like to put that in there.
Let's be clear as to what Dion was saying too. Dion was saying that we should look at it in a different way, but he said it doesn't change the reality of what we're talking about. He did say that. So let's not try to say that Dion is against the information. He isn't. He's saying that there's different ones that you can look at it, but he's saying you're still going to get the same result. So that's kind of
absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks for that clarification, Dean.
Okay, guys, we are going to come into the end of this, and this is really exciting. Thank you very much, Dapo. As you can see, everyone is really excited by this information because this is what we need to be talking about, and this is where NINAS comes in, right? Because this is what NINAS is about. It's taking the information, breaking it down, and Dapo, obviously, you'll be coming back, to share.
Please, we beg, he must come back.
We still want to know where the loans, the loan money, that's going to be a good one. Where's the loan money going, right? But this is what NINAS does, is bringing the information and all of us together, right, in the alliance territory. We come here every week and we talk about things, we break it down, we have fun, but we make sure that people understand that this is serious. This is very serious. Like Modukwe was saying earlier, guys, you need to be on Twitter. We need to have like 1 million of us on Twitter, tweeting every week. We don't. So where is everybody, guys? You gotta wake up. The reason why we're doing this is to bring you on board so that we can use the medium that we have in the world today to make this very, so that the world can hear. Where's all those TikTokers? Where are the young people? Young people, TikTokers, we need you to take our information and do those TikTok things and get it everywhere. What about Instagram, right? Instagram, Facebook, we need everyone's hand on deck. And as Chike mentioned earlier, you can't fight freedom with stones. It needs money. So please, you need to go to NINAS Voice, that's NINAS Voice, VOICE.org, and please donate and make it monthly, okay? If you want to donate $10 monthly, 20, 100, some people can even donate 5,000 monthly because they're making a lot of money, right? Please do so, because this freedom fight takes money. Protecting our people takes money. So everyone needs to be doing their part, right? We need folks who are going to make videos. We need folks who are going to write articles that will go into papers. We need folks who will host these shows. We need to have 1 or 2 of these daily going on, okay? And we've got lots of people who've got the voice, they've got the personality. I mean, come on, we can get you set up, and you can have every day of the week, we need to have 1 or 2 going on, okay? So everybody has something that they can contribute, and we're asking everyone to contribute. Learn the information, go out to NINAS, NINAS Voice, VOICE.org, go out to NINAS FFN, NINASFreedomFromNigeria.org. Go to freedomfromnigeria.com. There's lots of places for you to get to information, okay? So we're just urging everyone to get involved because it's the people that will lead us to the freedom, okay? Knowledge is power, and power is freedom, and people are the ones that take that freedom. So Ayo, if you can round up, and we will be done for the day.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to first of all thank Dapo, and of course Jean and Mudukwe, and everybody who spoke. Look, it's important to state this. We all matter in this struggle. Every single Southerner matters. You watching me, you have a role to play. Please volunteer yourself for this struggle. That is the only way we can defeat this thing. It's the only way we can defeat the Fulani aggression brought into our land. Remember, they are oppressing us in our land. So we need to encourage our people. The knowledge we're sharing here, the reason why we're sharing this knowledge is to encourage you to have the confidence to believe in the future of the Southerners without the oppression of the Fulanis on our necks every single time. We